Technology has been advancing faster than ever, and many people believe that the next step in that advancement is in AI, or artificial intelligence. AI is essentially a computer system that's able to replicate normally human tasks, such as visual perception or speech, among others. In my opinion, one of the most feasible examples of what AI can do for us right now is this website called AI Dungeon. It's a text-based role-playing game that uses AI to tell its stories. The game works like this from the player's perspective. The computer gives you a couple questions: where you want to go, what genre, and what your profession and name will be in the game. After that, it gives you a story prompt based on what you told the computer, and then is your responsibility to continue the story. You have 3 different types of input. Say, which lets you speak to other characters; do, which is any action that you want to take; and my personal favorite, story, which lets you directly tell the AI what will happen. Then you have the freedom to make any action you want, and I'm not joking when I say that you have complete control over the story. If you want some sense of scale for the amount of things you can do, there are a couple prompts for genres when you start the game, but even that doesn't scratch the surface. As an example, I chose to play in a zombie apocalypse. I kill a zombie at the very beginning, but then I decide to leave my hideout and I come across this person that says they know why the zombie apocalypse started, and that they know that someone intentionally started this and they know where they are. So I can continue with the story, I can talk to him or other characters, etc. But the point of this is not only that I, as a player, get multiple individual interactions with other characters, as well as my environment, it also introduces key elements to the story right in the beginning that the AI will remember which choices I make and will bring them back up later in the story. And what's especially interesting about this is that these choices are on a much smaller scale, but can still have long-lasting effects on the entire story. And in these smaller individual conversations that you will have, characters will remember and bring up later some of the things that you said, and that can also alter the outcome of the story in the long run. This means that the player not only chooses the genre they're in or the characters they talk to, but that each interaction that the player has with the world, that can greatly change what goes on around them, but also how other characters will react to them and treat them in the future. This also leads the way to branching story paths, something that game designers work for years on any AAA game that have it, but this just naturally occurs from your own choices in this seemingly infinite story that goes on in this website. However, AI being used in video games is nothing new, and there are many uses for it that are not entirely story-based as well. One popular indie game called Event Zero is set in a spaceship with an onboard AI that controls everything. And in this game, you have to communicate with an actual artificial intelligence in order to solve the different problems with the ship. And another AI you might remember that's very similar but completely different from AI Dungeon is Cleverbot, which was designed to replicate a human conversation. But maybe that's not the right word, because it's mind-blowing to think about how far we've come from how utterly stupid some of the things that Cleverbot says are. However, one of the most prominent uses for AI in video games that are significantly less advanced are non-player characters, often referred to as bots in mostly shooter games. Some games like CSGO or Rainbow Six Siege or Call of Duty have bots that follow different paths throughout the map, and they are programmed to shoot at you when they see you and throw grenades or sneak up behind you. But all of that changes throughout the round based on how you play or your teammates play. But they're not going to be making story decisions for you. However, imagine how impactful an AI like the one used in AI Dungeon could be if it was used for those decisions. I think the next step of this engine would be to implement it into an open world game where each non-player character could be its own individual person that the player could interact with. And each non-player character could also interact with the other characters, meaning that they could influence the story on their own. I believe that in the near future, AI will become a normal part of everyday life, and something like AI Dungeon is a really great way to show people what AI is actually capable of doing in a very real, comprehensible way right now. AI Dungeon has been one of the most interesting advancements in AI I've recently seen, and it's really sparked my interest again with the topic. I think it's definitely worth searching up AI Dungeon and playing it a bit yourself. But all in all, I'm just excited to see what game uses AI next for its storytelling and how.